Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and President Donald Trump, or President-elect Donald Trump's least favorite CNN anchor, well, he just humiliated himself on national television. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, please visit that address in the lower right-hand corner. It's youtube.com/@ExplainAmerica, and hit subscribe absolutely free. When you get there, it really helps us out. Jim Acosta made a complete mockery of himself. He went on national television, on CNN, on his show, where, by the way, he's being moved to midnight now because, well, they're kind of afraid of Trump, I think. And they're moving his butt to midnight. But in the meantime, he talked about a free press and fighting for a free press. And he talked about the march that happened years ago. People were marching in favor of him when Trump banned him from the White House press briefing room for being a jerk, a combative jerk who didn't want to ask questions. He wanted to give soliloquies and promote his own twisted political agenda. Well, then this goof holds up a pink sign that some lady gave him. God bless her. She believes what she believes. But he holds this up on national television saying, "We're marching for you, Jim." Ridiculous. I don't even have to talk about this because Kayleigh McEnany did a great job of taking him down. I want you to watch this and then let me know what you think in the comments.
Well, CNN's Jim Acosta claims that the role of journalists, which not sure what he'd know about that, is to, quote, seek the truth and be, quote, defenders of the people.
Journalists exist to seek the truth, to tell people's stories, to lift up voices that may not be heard otherwise, to shine a light on injustice, and to hold the powerful accountable. We are not the enemy of the people. We are the defenders of the people. A woman sent me this sign 8 years ago. She carried it here at a march in Washington. She wrote on the back of the sign, "To me and the press here in D.C., you have our support." To Nora, wherever you are, right back at you.
Well, if he really means that, then he would know that includes Americans, even Trump supporters. Now, let me remind you, this is the same Jim Acosta who openly expresses his contempt for President-elect Trump. I remember challenging him when I was White House press secretary. Let's go back in history.
He is trying to pass a Muslim ban in this country.
That's an absurd attempt to justify the misleading headlines that are regularly on your network.
Are you saying that the president
Gotta let me
stokes
finish, Jim. This isn't a cable news segment. I'm answering your question right now from the White House podium. And it's appalling. You have one person on your network saying that this is a celebration in the streets, a carnival-like atmosphere. There's a guy with a sign that says free hugs. You celebrate hugging in the context of a protest, but in a Trump rally, that rally's not allowed because guess what, Jim? It doesn't fit the ideological agenda of CNN. Peter Alexander. Moving on, and if the media's job is to really seek the truth, why did they do this anytime concerns about Biden's mental fitness were brought up?
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
He's as sharp as a tack.
Anybody, any aide who engages with him or reporters, we can see this. The gears of his mind are working.
And Joe Scarborough just tried to clean up his part in all of it.
I spent, as I've said before, 2.5, 3 hours with Joe Biden in the White House, all over the White House, talking at length and in depth about foreign policy matters, and he was as sharp as anybody else I've spoken to, and spoke actually like a man who's been doing this since he was 29 years old, and new world leaders. Was he slower physically? Yes. Did he occasionally jumble a few words or a few names? Yes. But he corrected those as well. So after 2.5, 3 hours of it with him in the White House, going all over the White House, I did not see that.
Wow, he never saw it. Well, if this is how the liberal media covered Biden, we can only wonder how they will cover a second Trump presidency. You know, Larry, you remember the actor Jim Acosta well. I call him an actor, not a journalist. This man, I mean, he wants to talk about seeking truth as journalists. Fine. That is a beautiful thing in principle. But in practice, there was Russiagate. The Hunter Biden laptop was misinformation. All the lies that were told to us.
Here's the really beautiful thing. I don't even want to talk about these dopey dopes.
There are so many new conservative media outlets.
Yeah.
The whole game has changed over the past many years. And whether it's podcasts or social media, including this network, which is still fair and balanced, thankfully, it just doesn't matter. Their influence is nil. They've been so wrong so many times and so biased against conservatives and trying to censor free. Everybody knows that, though. Everybody knows that. That's why their ratings are down. CNN is collapsing. MSNBC is collapsing. The network news is collapsing. I mean, their game is over, okay? It's game, set, match. It's a new dawn. And whether it's TikTok or not, okay, social media, new cable, new outlets, all new. And nobody cares what these people say. I'm sorry. Nobody cares what they say.
There has been, and I've heard this from people in the transition, kind of a stepping back of journalists trying to understand this movement, how it happened, why it happened. I'm not naive enough to believe that last, because these are journalists, right? But do you think that they step back and analyze this?
I do. I think there's been a very different tone in Washington with companies and with journalists. And it's reported now that CNN is trying to move Jim Acosta to the midnight to 2 a.m. slot, even though he has pretty good ratings for them, for them in the afternoon. I think for some of these reasons. But look, I'll say one comment about the Biden story. Of all the things I'm upset about over the last year, the fact that the people around Joe Biden, starting with the First Lady and on down, did not say to him after the 2022 midterms, you cannot run, I think has hurt his legacy, which I actually think will be borne out substantively to be better than it is today by leaps and bounds. And the fact that it took him 3 weeks after the debate. And I love Joe Biden. I think he's been a wonderful president. But that decision paved the way for the return of Donald Trump. And the Democrats that were around him have to live with that decision every day of these next 4 years.
Yeah, and when it comes to the question of how the media will treat him during his second term, Donald Trump has even said it. He's already predicting that it's going to be very similar to 8 years ago. He said, we are going to do mass deportations, and there's going to be an image of some woman crying, and some people aren't going to like that. So he is prepared. And then when it happens, I guarantee there will be flashbacks to the Mika and Joe. I went to the White House. I went to Mar-a-Lago and visited with Donald Trump announcement, and we're going to say, oh, boy, have times changed.
Just that the legacy media, it's over for them.
It is.
It's completely over for them. I'm just saying, why hassle it?
Yeah.
There's no there. I'm sorry. I just shut up.
And look, if the role of journalists is to seek truth, as Jim says, then what we need to have is never again calling people who are questioning things fringe. Never again have them stamp out questions and amplify, for example, letters circulated by the intelligence community falsely accusing. There's so much we saw in the last 4 years that can never happen again. So seeking truth, yes, and that means listening to the American people.